even with walking, intensity matters. I was reading an article about walking and duration and how they found that walking in larger doses, right, longer uninterrupted bouts of walking was more beneficial than smaller, shorter bouts of walking. Now, this was with people who are relatively inactive, but what does it tell you? That if you want to get results, you have to challenge the system. You have to do things and take it outside of its comfort zone. And so when it comes to exercise, I'm constantly talking about intensity, that this should be the number one driver of your understanding of the program that you're doing. How can I get the most intensity out of the workout session, the training session, the exercise themselves, whatever activity that I'm doing? If I want to get the best health outcomes, the best response, I have to find the ways of driving that intensity. And so when it comes to walking, something that you would think, well, walking's walking. Like, it shouldn't matter if you take, five-minute walks or one 30-minute walk, right? You're going to get the same sort of benefit. But what we've found is because this was done with sedentary people, that they were used to doing some form of little bit of walking. So if I broke up a 30-minute walk into smaller segments, it's not that big of a challenge. But when I start taking that duration and it's uninterrupted and I don't get rest and I challenge it, that's when I'm going to start to respond. Now, why don't I recommend, in regard to exercise, doing like cardio or doing these types of things, is because to drive intensity, it gets very, very, very time consuming, because you can only run so fast. You can only do so many movements over and over again and keep the intensity up. So with lifting weights, this is a very easy way to overload and to drive intensity. And the time on things makes it challenging to be able to, especially once you've achieved some level of fitness. Like they said in this specific example, this was sedentary people that weren't used to doing walking every single day, and they had them do short walks or they had them do longer walks. And so when it comes to you, as you get more fit, to do a walk or to do a run or to do a activity that's going to give you challenge, you have to spend even more time, right? Or you increase the speed. Well, what comes with the speed increase? That comes with risk of injury, okay? There might be mechanical issues that go along with it. If I'm doing anything fast, right? If I don't have great form on something, the wear and tear or the chance of injury goes up. If I'm in a pool, that changes a lot because there's not so much risk. If I can control that environment and sit on a bike or on an elliptical or something like that, that's another way that you can then do that. But even still, you get better and better conditioned at doing that activity. What's going to allow you to get more intensity? You're going to have to be on that machine or that apparatus for a longer period of time. So if you don't have time, there are ways of driving intensity that favor your time. And that's why I talk about, strength training, is because it's a very efficient way to get the most bang for your buck in such a really short period of time. Plus, it's very, very safe. I don't have to use speed when I do exercise like that, right? I can push really, really slowly, and then I cannot even push. I can just hold a weight. I can just sit in a squat position. I can do isometric activities without even moving that are very, very safe. Even if I'm lifting weights, I initiate the movement and I can bring the movement back down. Now, if I'm using something like a barbell, that might be more tricky, because if I offload the barbell and it's up here and I take it down and I can't get it back up again, that's when challenges start arising. So there are certain exercises that are more risky than others if you're going to be going towards failure, where you're really exhausting the muscle, getting the most intensity that you can at that specific exercise. So there are certain things, but if you have access to machines, you can get really, really, really intense with very, very, very little risk. So when it comes to intensity, or exercise, intensity matters. Even when it comes to walking, it is paramount. And this all goes back to your body. Your body wants to keep the status quo. So, unless if you have an outside force that is bigger, more demanding, more intense than it's used to, it will not adapt. It does not want to adapt. It wants to keep its status quo. So that stress you provide it, whether in this case it was a sedentary person doing a longer walk, right? Literally just moving their body a little bit more than they were used to, they were seeing results. And this is how, this is when I talk to people, you can get results doing anything. If you're not used to doing something and you do anything, you're going to get results from that. But when it comes to you're starting to get more conditioned, you're starting to get stronger, what should be the most important thing that you're doing? Should it be more volume? Should it be more time? Should it be more? There's all this debate. You need to do more exercises. You need to do more sets. You need to do more repetitions. You need to do more weight. All of that stuff is irrelevant as long as you are focusing on intensity. Can I increase intensity by doing more repetitions? Yes. Can I increase intensity by doing more weight? Yes. Can I increase intensity by doing more volume in regard to, like, let's just say more exercises for that muscle group? Yes, of course. But those things don't mean that that is the specific answer. You could do all of those things at the same time if you wanted to. But really what you should be focusing on is how can you drive more intensity. If you're sedentary, just doing something. Okay, I went on a 15-minute walk last week. I'm going to go on a 20-minute walk this week. And you just go more and more and more. Now, what happens, all right? Maybe you're like, well, I'm walking, all right? Maybe I can drive the intensity. Maybe I should go jogging. Like I said before, there might be form issues that go into that, all right? There might be other mechanical issues that when I increase the intensity on something, now there's risk of injury, okay? And the risk of wear and tear. And so maybe that's not a good idea. Like I said, I don't recommend that. I recommend working with a professional in a weight room where you can control the movements by initiating themselves, and especially if you have someone working with you, they can help you. If you have machines, even better. That way you can drive the intensity, and whether it's you start at 5 pounds, doesn't matter, just like someone's walking for 5 minutes. It doesn't matter about the weight, it matters about how much effort are you putting out, and that's where the intensity comes from. If I can provide more effort, if my body is working harder, that is going to signal to my body, hey, we need to prepare for whatever was just going on, right? That intensity, that this effort, there's a level of effort that this person put out there, this intensity, we need to adapt to that. So how do we adapt to that? We get stronger. And that is a very simple way of approaching exercise. It's overload. It's challenging it more than you did the next time so that you can put out more effort. One of the things that I run into often is when I go into the gym, because I'm there to get results, I'm not there to just check off, hey, I worked out today. Some people, that's why they're there, and that's fine. But I want results. So when I go to the gym, if I go into the gym, this happened to me last week. I wasn't feeling great. I ended up actually being sick the following day. So I kind of felt it before I felt it, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. I'm just going to take a day off. And so what ended up happening was the day before I got sick, I wasn't feeling sick, but I was not strong in the gym. I was doing the exercise, and I'm scratching my head, and I'm going, man, I just don't feel like I did last week. And I looked at the numbers, and I go, I got 12 today, but I got 15 last week on this specific exercise. And so I should have just went home right there. But I am one of these people that likes to still continue. But what did I do? I cut the volume down. I only did a few exercises, and I was like, I'm out, all right? After I did a few other exercises and I realized that my strength wasn't there, I was like, maybe I'll get my second win. Maybe it was just that exercise. It was a really challenging exercise. And I was like, maybe I'll feel better when I get to some more upper body. I was doing leg stuff, and legs suck. So maybe if I do some pressing, that'll help. And I didn't. So I go, you know what? You got to get out of here. I wasn't able to put the level of intensity that was required for me to overload especially like I said, I track my workouts, and this is how you know what you are overloading with was it, did I need to do more repetitions? In this case, yes. If I was going to put out more effort on that exercise, I needed to do more repetitions. I didn't increase the weight. I just wanted to do the same weight, but I wanted to get a few more repetitions. I couldn't do that. I should go home. If you're not able to put out that level of intensity, you're probably not recovered, or in my case, you're getting sick, right? So I wasn't really at 100%. Even though I wasn't sick, I was already starting to kind of get that fatigue level out of it. So those are signs and symptoms that, hey, your intensity's not there, go home. That driver, all right, of the results is intensity. So when I go into my workouts and I focus on intensity, I know this is what I'm looking for, okay? I'm looking for the same level or more. Can I push one more repetition? If I've done 15 repetitions on something, maybe I'll increase weight. So now I go to increase weight. Okay, so now we start back over, and now I have a new baseline at a new weight. If I was at 190 pounds last week and then I move up to 200 pounds this week, the first time, all right, it doesn't matter how many repetitions I get. If I get 5 repetitions, big whoop. Next week, maybe I'm shooting for 6. The week after that, maybe I'm shooting for 7, and I'm continually going after little things here and there to drive the intensity, and that's all you're trying to do. That, for me, is a much better way of going about it because it's in such a condensed time period and it's in a safe manner, and I can work my whole body. Whereas if you look at some of these more ambulatory cardio activities, I'm predominantly using my legs when I'm doing something like an elliptical or a bike or a treadmill, right? Walking, right? And those types of things. So I'm not able to use my other parts of my body when I do that. The other thing is the intensity. I can get the intensity down, but for someone like me, I can run for miles and miles and miles. I don't have the time to go running for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I want to get it done quickly. The sprinting aspect of things comes in. That's if I was going to do sort of high intensity exercises in that ambulatory motion, I'd be doing super, super high intensity. So that's what I would do. But for me, I'd rather spend my time in the weight room because I don't have to spend as much time on that specific apparatus, and I don't have this risk of, blowing myself out on a treadmill or the repetitive motion over and over and over again, how many times those legs are going around the wheels when you're doing those activities. I'd rather do 10, 15 repetitions where that joint is only going 10 or 15 times versus doing it 1,500 times when you're doing some of those activities. So that's one of the reasons why I prefer the weight training. It's easier to track progress. It's easier to know when you're not at the same level of intensity. You can do that with some of these things now. They have wattage and they have RPMs and things, but you have to be paying attention. For me, I just write down how much weight, how many repetitions, and then I move on. It's very simple for me. But that's the driver of what you're looking for if you're trying to get results in your physical fitness. And it doesn't matter if it's even something as simple as walking, you should try to push yourself. Once you've gotten yourself to that level, right, where you've exceeded what you can do, you've got to overload it somehow. If you're running out of time, hey, I can only walk for so long. This is when you try to drive the intensity up. And that might mean you start jogging. But like I said, there's other risks that go associated. So you can kind of see where I'm getting at when it comes to this. But it was interesting for me to look at, even walking, where exercise intensity matters. So at the end of the day, look for ways that you can drive intensity, and that's how you're going to get the stimulus, which allows you to get the response, which is the results. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm in the gym for, and maybe you are too, and maybe you got something out of this. Until next time, I'll see you then.